Welcome to Junkyard Theory, folks. Every single day we try to bring people from all different aspects of the industry, all different sides. Mostly the media focuses on actors, producers, directors, but with Junkyard Theory, we are trying to focus on the people who actually make the film happen, because it's the ultimate collaborative art form, and you have literally thousands of people working on massive studio films making the content that we see possible. And we've got one such person who, we've never had a film stills photographer before, and she has worked on Marvel's Eternals, BBC's Dracula, Doctor Who, Good Omens. Sorry, is it bad? It's Bad Omens. It's Bad Omens. My bad. And so many more. And I'm really excited to have Sophie Mutevelian on board today. Sophie, are you born? Glad to have you with us.
Ayubowan, a pleasure to be here and speak to your viewers. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
100%. Thank you for being with us. Sophie, I just want to, with every single guest, we usually go back to their roots, kind of like, how did they start? How did they get their entry into the film industry? And I'd like to hear the same from you, because, film stills photographers, like, where do they come from? Like, I've never interviewed a film stills photographer, so I am so curious to, hear your story.
Yeah, well, I mean, I have to say, there's not, it's just everyone has got their own story getting into film stills. And I have to say, I didn't even know that this area of photography existed. I'd been doing other photography, but I just didn't really know about this. So I sort of started a bit later in my career. So I spent 10 years after university doing various other jobs, but I'd studied art foundation at university, and that gave me an introduction to photography. So I didn't actually study photography. I basically taught myself and learned on the job. So then 10 years later, after university, I decided I wanted to give photography a chance and make a career of it. And then just basically used all the contacts I knew to get jobs. And then one day I met someone who worked in the film industry, and she said, it was a good friend of mine now. And she said she was working on a feature film at the time. Do I do unit stills? Now, I had no idea what that was, but I said yes. So I was in that frame of mind where, if I'm going to get somewhere in photography and make a career of it, I have to say yes to every opportunity and then see where it goes. So I said yes, got on set, didn't, I had to work out what to do, but it worked out. And basically, then I had a set of photographs to use, and then just use those as my portfolio, and then sort of cold called everybody. And then a month later, I had a phone call from the BBC amazing producers, and they got me onto my first TV job, Silent Witness. And then from there, everything just sort of snowballed. And here I am 10 years later.
That's amazing. Like the cold calling part, that's essentially how Junkyard Theories kind of come to this point.
Oh, really?
As well, which is what happened with you and I as well. Like, I just cold messaged you.
And exactly.
I mean, it's that thing people kind of refer to as a hustle. I guess it's all about that, trying to go the extra mile, see what you can do with the very little that you have, call people, and see if you can get your foot in the door. So from the point you kind of, I'm assuming you were cold calling, like you said, everybody, not only I don't know, 1% replied, I guess, or maybe it was
mostly I had no replies. So I'd send emails out, and then they just go into the abyss. And but so I was just so grateful to have this phone call, and I was shocked, and then I was really nervous about going on set. So because it's you just don't know, but yeah, it was it worked. I recommend
and
cold calling. Yeah.
yes, and that's actually what matters, because you manage to get your foot in big doors, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So I've always been curious. So, I mean, you manage to capture these magical moments on set between actors, maybe sometimes, directors giving directions to actors, all of that. But when exactly do you kind of start clicking? Because
Right.
once cameras start rolling, the DOPs, they don't, or mostly the sound guys, they don't like hearing clicks and all of that. It's
No.
yeah. But so when do you do that? And if there's a moment that you see that's happened, while the cameras are rolling, and you
Yeah.
are unable to take a photograph, how do you go back and, like, do you tell them to stage it again, or walk me through your process?
Yeah. Well, normally I will sort of, when I arrive on set, I will just check out what's going on. We get a call sheet, so that will tell me what the order of the scenes are, what's being filmed, the locations, etc., and the cast, of course, who's in. And so I'll always sort of make sure I'm there during the rehearsal, so I can see what is going on, what the sort of relationship with the cast are. If I'm there sort of on my first day, then I will ask to be introduced to the cast, because that way they will be aware that I'm on set. Because one of the key things is not to get in their eye line, and not to not to be in the way generally. So and then I will basically also work out where the cameras are going to be positioned. Sometimes there's 3 cameras on set, so I have to make sure I'm not in the way, but I still get the best shot possible. I'm also always on the lookout for behind the scenes pictures. So when they're setting up, or when the director is talking to the cast, those key moments, or when the classic sort of director and DP, when they're doing anything like framing up, or they've got a lens, or those classic shots. So I'm always observing, and then once they get ready to film, I'll just make sure I'm on set and I've got a position which is just not going to be in anyone's way, but usually it's very close to the camera, the main camera. So when I first started 10 years ago, we didn't have the mirrorless cameras, the silent cameras. So we had, SLR. So I used Canon, and I've still got it because I love Canon so much. But I had to use a blimp to make it soundproof, which is like this. It's like a box basically that you put the camera in. It's got a tube for the lens, and then that makes it quiet, and I can shoot during the takes. Most of the times I want to shoot during the takes, because that's when I feel like I get the best performance from the cast, because they're performing for the final film or TV show. But if for any reason I can't be there, which there's many reasons, it could be a tiny set and there's just no space, or it could be reflection issues, or it could be that it's a sensitive scene and an extra person like me will be too distracting. So if that happens, then I will just then ask the first AD to see if I can jump in before they break up that setup. And then usually, if the cast are happy to do so, they'll just let me jump in for usually 10 seconds, sometimes more if I'm lucky. And then basically, I'll get those shots that way. But, the most painful part of the job is not being able to get the shots that I can see are going to be stunning. That's really hard as a photographer to, on a daily basis, I'm having to let that go. So, yeah.
And where do you I don't know if you do get any directions from somebody. Are there requirements that, before you arrive on set, like you are briefed on, like, all right, we want an X number of photographs shot in this particular format? Do you get any requirements like that? And so what are they?
Yes, gosh, well, it varies. I have to say, some productions, especially if I've done a few seasons with them, you know, and they're happy with my work. I just go in and just do what I do, and they trust me to basically fulfill their needs. But you know, new productions, or you know, you know, sometimes producers or the photo producers will have specific briefs because they've got a vision of a specific cast, or someone who's going to be like sort of leading the publicity. So I will sometimes get a brief, and that brief could be, you know, get a 3-shot of the cast from this scene. Make sure you've got that 3-shot of the, you know, of the leads. Or it might be, you know, there's going to be a stunt, so we really want to cover that. It could be, yeah, it could just be a really key moment for the film or TV show. So, you know, something that they've already envisioned that they're going to use. So I have to make sure I cover those. Or it could just be pull-aside portraits. So sometimes, as well as the unit photography, I set up a studio, and the brief is then to get specific shots for gallery, which will end up on a poster, or, you know, more leading key art publicity. So yeah, it's, and sometimes I will just, you know, find out on the day something that they need that I haven't been briefed on. You know, it's yeah, it's totally,
it's about improvising in that case, as usual, I guess.
Yes. Yeah.
So, you know, when a film is about to come out, hopefully the first piece of PR that gets sent out to the media happens to be photographs from the stills photographer, and in this case, it's yours. So this is the first point of contact between the audience and you know, a particular film.
Yeah.
And in a way, you are responsible for, you know, putting the proper image or the vision, or setting the tone for what's gonna come out, like that exclusive first look, you know. And that's very important when it comes to big studio films, in fact. And does that ever kind of like get you nervous that your work is what the audience is first gonna see? Whether, like, no matter who shot it, it might be like some high-profile DP or some big directors probably working on it, but it's the photos from your camera, your DSLR or your mirrorless camera, which are, you know, that's what the audience is gonna see. Does that ever make you nervous?
Yes. Sometimes, yeah, it does. There is a bit of a pressure, you know, because there's only ever one unit photographer on set, you know. So I think over time, you know, I've learned to sort of understand what makes a good unit photograph. You know, I understand now, you know, what shots are going to make it to selection. You know, so now I'm, you know, I'm sort of more confident about what I can produce. But, you know, something like the Marvel movie, that's a big, you know, it's just me on set for 5 months. Getting all the.
I would have imagined there might have been a bit more on a movie like that, but it's just one person.
It's just one person. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes they might use 2 photographers and on different days, you know, they might split the job and get more than one photographer, but it's only ever one photographer on set any day. Yeah. So it is quite a responsibility, I have to say. But sometimes, you know, when you've got an amazing set, an amazing cast, and everything looks stunning, you know, there's just so much to photograph. It's just really exciting, you know, and it's, you know, that's when I really feel like I can, you know, I can be really creative and, you know, ask for opportunities and things like that. So, yeah, but yeah, it can be nerve-wracking.
And referring to going back to what you just said, what makes a good set photograph? Like in your experience, having shot for like the past 10 years, you mentioned, you know what what's going to get selected at the end of the day. So
Yeah.
could you kind of tell us like what does get selected and how do you kind
Yeah.
of aim to shoot for that?
That's a really good question. Yeah, I mean, it's about, you know, portraying the film, portraying what the director wants, and about, you know, the look, the mood, the tone. You know, it's watching what the DP is doing and the director's doing and trying to translate that in one still. So, you know, with the filming, obviously you've got the story being filmed, so you're going to get it in a scene. But with a still, you have to try and tell the story in one picture. So I usually, you know, I can spot, you know, which moment of a scene is going to be the one that the frame that's going to be great, you know. So the frame that's going to be emotional or you know, drama, the mood, you know, and all the lighting will help with this. So so yeah, I just sense it, you know. I just sort of know, and I feel when I've got a good shot, I just, you know, before I've even looked at the back of the camera, you know, I just know when I've got it. So it is it's a feeling, you know, as well. I find, you know, and it's, you know, constantly looking and waiting for that sort of moment to come together and knowing. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to explain what, because for every show it's a different still, you know. Sometimes it's about framing it differently to make it look uncomfortable, you know, if depending on what the show is. I've done a lot of like the shows like Inside Number 9, which is a brilliant BBC drama. I've done 5 seasons with them and absolutely love working with them. So so that's a sort of a dark comedy drama. So that is all about angles and, you know, what's revealed in the pictures, so you don't give away too much. So it's, you know, and it's understanding the script is also really good. So I do tend to like to read the scripts in advance because that helps me understand the characters. Yeah, I hope.
So do you always get the script, or does it happen sometimes that you don't, and you know, you just go on set and just work with what you have?
Yeah, it's mixed. I mean, for the films, yes, I always get the script in advance, but not always in hand. I mean, for, you know, something that's sort of top secret, I'll be locked in a room with a paper script that I have to then read and then hand back to someone, you know. So so there's a lot of, you know, security around the big films. But yeah, it's mixed. I don't always get given the script, so I have to then work it out. You have to work out the characters' relationships when I'm on set. So I'll just talk to people, you know, I'll talk to the director, or I'll talk to the script supervisors, or who, you know, whoever knows what's going on, to give me an idea, and then I've got good knowledge of that.
Being a stills photographer and the you know, the skill that you contribute on set, it's, I mean, in general, it's very shrouded and it doesn't necessarily get the exposure that it should. But you were also telling me that, you know, stills photographers are in demand right now, and it's a very unique skill. So could you tell me, like, you know, our studios, our filmmakers kind of getting to understand the importance of still photographers, and if so, like, where do you see people who do the same career as you do, where do you see that going?
Yeah, I mean, it's yeah, it's one of those skills where it's not just about taking photographs, because it's about you know, judging the vibe on set. So you have to build relationships, you have to be respectful of everyone else doing their job, you have to be very respectful of the cast and, you know, how they feel about having someone taking photos on set. But at the same time, I have to provide material, because that is, like you said, the first thing that goes out to promote a show. But generally on set, it's the least important on a film set. You know, the photographer is the first to go if necessary, because you know, the less people on set, the better. So it's a funny dynamic, you know. And so you have to be adaptable all the time, and you know, be on guard so that I don't want to miss an opportunity, because if I haven't got it, you know, I want to jump in and get it. But yeah, so at the moment, yeah, that it is very busy because of COVID. There's been such a backlog. But I think unit still photographers, yeah, it's a very niche area. You know, it's there's not a lot of us, and but it can definitely, you know, if you've got photography skills, if you've been doing photography in different areas like weddings or events, or even street photography, you know, you've got that sort of you've got the skills to be able to adapt to work on set. Yes, I don't.
Yeah, and it always this is something that really fascinates me, because your photos are the ones that initially go to an audience, and if you know, before a show comes out or before a film comes out, people sometimes try to break down the stills so much, like, you know, okay, what's that character wearing, who are they interacting with, what might the scenario be in this particular situation, like, you know, movies like Marvel, which have this massive fandom. And you know, I mean, you are telling a story with your photography at the same time, while not revealing too much.
Yes.
You know, like you said before, you got to be careful, kind of like, essentially you are teasing, giving people a flavor of what's to come, at least with the photographs that make it out to public before the film is released.
Yes.
So okay, what I'm trying to ask here is, do you know which photographs kind of get sent out, which will eventually become the first look, and which ones will be held up until, you know, the film is released, film or the TV show for that matter?
I mean, I don't. I mean, I can judge and I can sense. I have an idea of what might end up being used. I mean, usually for those scenarios, the ones that don't give away the plot, you know, too much. You know, they don't sort of, you know, the ones that are spoilers for the show will be held back, and everything else will be released. You know, just character shots, or, you know, scenes that it doesn't really give away too much, but entices people to be interested in watching it. Yeah. So I don't make the selection. It's normally you know, the client,
probably the marketing and the PR.
The market, they make the selection. So sometimes it is really, you know, I've got thousands of photos that have just never seen the light of day and never will. So it's really, it's a bit heartbreaking in that sense, you know, because I've got some really lovely shots that I wish were selected, but, you know, for some reason or other, they might not be selected. So especially now that, you know, VFX has, you know, there's so much VFX. So it's easier then to take a film grab with all the VFX added, rather than add it to a still. And sometimes there's changes. You know? So, which is, you know, it can be really tough, because, you know, I've got drives full of photos and they just, they won't get seen. But, you know, the ones that do, you know, they do the job. So.
It's in a way kind of like, you know, not everything that gets shot makes the final cut. So I guess that kind of translates in a more brutal sense to stills photography as well.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, like all the scenes that are cut, you know, they'll never, you know, I guess with film, they can put them, add them on, can't they? But or, you know, release them as extras. But yeah, with stills, no, because, you know, it also depends on whether talent are happy that, you know, there's talent approval and everything. So yeah.
Right. So it goes through a long vetting process, I'm assuming. So the talent has to be okay with how they look on the picture, I guess, and then marketing and PR probably the director as well, the studio. So
Yeah.
it goes through a whole long process.
It goes through a lot of people before there's a final selection,
Wow.
you know, and sometimes such a small selection gets chosen, but yeah, I have to you know, I trust, you know, the best is shown, you know, but yeah.
So when Dracula was getting turned into a BBC adaptation from, you know, Stephen Moffat, and like, I mean, that was one name that sold me on the whole series. But at the same time, I wasn't necessarily sure. Okay, how is this gonna happen? Because like we've seen this story being adapted so many times, and then came the stills. Then came the stills. And that was when I was like, okay, all right, because that set the tone. Like just like I remember, I can't remember how, I don't know how you pronounce his name. The lead actor, Claes Bang. Yes. There was that publicity still of him, and that set the whole tone, and I was like, okay, I am definitely gonna go watch this.
So yes, so there's that was actually I think because there's a unit photography, and then there's the poster artwork. So sometimes they use two different photographers for those. So yeah, there was those shots which were taken in the water. Is those the ones you mean? I think. Yeah.
Exactly.
That was a different photographer. Yeah, who took those.
Okay.
They were brilliant. Yeah, brilliant. I did the unit work, but the colors reflect. So those the poster shots did reflect the mood of what was going on in the film. So and the colors were so important in that film. It was
100%.
Yeah.
So about setting the tone, like, I mean, once the set is all dressed, you have the gaffers, cinematographers, they all come in, everything's set up and everything. Do you at any point kind of like request light changes, like any changes on set?
Oh, do I?
Yeah.
Do
I? Do you? I mean, like, have you ever got that flexibility to, you know, request a particular change, and they're kind of like, all right, let's go ahead with that, and have they ever catered to you, or are you always conforming to what's been, you know, arranged on set?
Yeah. Oh, that's a good question. I don't have a say in how the lighting looks on set when they're filming. Generally, that's not part of the unit photographer's job, really. But it's interesting. I'd love to try it and see what reaction I would get. Probably get
I've planted the seed in your head, so if that does happen,
I know that's a good one. That's a good one. but the only time I do get to play with lighting, so it is, you know, on set, I will go with the DP, because the DPs are, you know, I'm always in awe of the DPs on set. You know, the way they create these lighting looks in such a small space of time I just find it amazing. So I'm always watching what they're doing. But I do get to light as well when I'm setting up studio or doing poster shoots, and that's a really nice process, because then I get to be creative with light as well as looking for a great shot. So then there's like a concept for the posters or key art, and I'll be involved in that process, and I'll then have my own team to do the shoot and work with the cast. So that's a really lovely balance, actually, with the unit still photography job.
About that particular task, you know, taking shots for the poster, which, I mean, posters again tend to be these beautiful works of art in their own right. And how do you go about creating, you know, the magic over there? Is it like, again, do you get a brief for that, or do you sometimes improvise? And if so, I mean, like, with regards to the posters, all of that, how does that dynamic work?
Yeah, that's another great question. It's normally with this, there is a brief. It's quite a detailed brief, because the marketing department will have a concept, specific concept. Sometimes I'm involved in that, and sometimes I'm involved in, you know, we work together with ideas, or, you know, what we can do. But mostly, you know, a concept has been set, and then I'm tasked with achieving the kind of lighting look that they want, or I might suggest some lighting looks that will reflect the mood of the show. But sometimes I have been put on the spot and just, you know, asked to sort of pull aside, you know, on the go. So that then it's just, you know, it's just me working it out. So yeah, it really is. I have to be so adaptable. You know, I have to be ready at any point to, you know, have to be quick to get something I need. So yeah, but I love it. It's a completely different process doing the gallery work as opposed to the unit work. So yeah,
that's amazing. Any transferable skills that, you know, come from like different walks of life? I always ask my guests this question, like, has anything from a different field kind of contributed to what you do on a film set at all?
That's a good question. Yeah, yes, a few things actually. I think one of the key things, which comes from any job, you know, working as a team. So, you know, that's just so important on set when everyone is trying to achieve their own thing. You know, everyone's got a specific role, and everyone's doing it at the same time. So yeah, so I actually used to do sort of event organizing, and I also photographed weddings. So that, in that sense, it's made me think very quick on my feet, be very quick to, you know, change something, or quick to think about, oh, actually this would work better, this lens would work better, or, you know, this position would be better, or, you know, or you know, you just oh, now I've got to find a space for a studio, to set up a studio. So, you know, setting up it's almost like running an event, doing a studio shoot. So yeah, so that kind of thing has helped. Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything else. It's probably lots of things. I mean, I always think, you know, nothing's wasted. Everything I've done before has sort of fed into where I am now. So yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, just lost you there for a bit. I hope the audience kind of got that, but hazy connection.
Oh, sorry. Yes, yeah, you froze there for a moment.
No worries. Yeah, and you know, when it comes to taking all of these photographs and everything, like what is essentially in your kit? So from the place that you started, with regards to not just the camera body, but the equipment, like the lenses, diffusers, anything at all, like how has that upgraded with time?
Gosh,
and what do you use today?
Yeah, okay, well, yeah, it has evolved. I mean, I think the biggest change was when I decided to make the switch from Canon to Sony cameras. Purely because, well, for a few reasons. One, because it's, you know, the electronics silent shutters, which just makes life so much easier on set. You know, I don't have to worry about putting my camera in and out the blimps. The blimps are quite cumbersome, so I've got, you know, I'll end up having so many things I'm carrying. So that was you know, a sort of amazing sort of change. And also the Sony cameras are really brilliant at continuous focus lock shooting. So for action films or stunts, anything that's fight scenes, you know, all of those can be captured and the focus pin sharp. So it gives me way more, you know, material to provide. So, and, you know, I tend not to miss anything then. So that's been great. Although, but I do love the Canon. And I still carry around with me my Canon cameras as well. I tend to, you know, just in case. I mean, sometimes I'll use the Sonys during the takes, and sometimes for portraits and setups, I'll use my Canons because I just still love the color spectrum on the Canons. I don't, and there's just something, I don't know, more 3D about the Canon photographs. So I do. So yeah. So, and then I also carry around, you know, I've got to be, in terms of kit, have to be prepared for anything. Like, we could be in the mud, we could be in the rain, we could be in the snow. So I have to take wet weather gear, and I have to, you know, take tripods if I have to shoot remotely. So it's just, yeah, it's just, so my kit has, you know, it expands. I mean, but then I can cut it down if we're going hiking. I mean, I did some filming in Austria just before lockdown, and literally I was hiking all my kit up a ski slope. So, you know, in that sense, you have to really know what is your bare minimum that you can take. And then it's a luxury to have everything else. You know, if I'm in it depends on the location. So if I'm on a location where I can have everything I need, all the lenses, so I'll have a set of prime lenses. I've got 3 Sony cameras that I carry around, literally carry it around on a harness around me with different lenses, because I don't want to miss any opportunity. I know not all photographers work like that, but I kind of like having a prime lens with me at all times. And then I also carry my Canons as sort of backup, and in case I need to do some gallery work. So then,
all those 3 sorry to interject. Those 3 Sony cameras are, I'm assuming they're the same model, fitted with different lenses, is it?
Well, actually, I've got 2 A9s and one recently A1, the new flagship camera from Sony. Gotcha. Which is amazing. Yeah, I'm so glad. I mean, it took me a while to decide whether to get that or not. They kindly let me sort of use it for a couple of weeks to see if I wanted to go that way, and then I really didn't want to give it back. So so that made the decision for me. So yeah. So yeah, I'm trying to think what other and other kit might just be like remote triggers, things like that, and obviously tripods and things, and yeah.
Fantastic. When you shoot photographs for action sequences specifically, I'm assuming the dynamic is somewhat different from like a dramatic scene or something like that, because okay, have you ever been put in the back of a truck or something like that and then asked to take photographs?
Do you know what? The answer is yes. I've been up ladders, I've been in the trucks, I've been on the end of a dolly. I've got literally also not all camera operators let me do that, but I could find myself in really strange positions. One time I was in a bath. Not just sounds a bit random. We were basically filming in a bathroom set, and literally the camera operator was sitting on the edge of the bath, and it was a tight space, and so the only place I could be was just sit in the bath. So to get the shot, I did that. But yeah, I literally could. It's worth it, because especially, like I say, for action, quite often they're on a trailer, the camera's on a trailer driving ahead of, it might be a motorbike sequence or a car chase, or so if there's space, then I'll definitely get on there for sure. Yeah.
And have you ever been put in a position where that wasn't necessarily safe, but you were like, I really want to do that because the shot mattered? I mean, I'm pretty sure like camera operators, they pretty much do that all the time. But being a stills photographer, has that ever happened where you really wanted to, although it was not safe? Any stories to share?
Well, I mean, the first one that comes to mind, it wasn't me actually. I set up my camera remotely. There was going to be a car crash, right? So I set up my camera on a tripod and got the remote trigger set, you know, everything. I checked with everybody, you know, is this a good spot? I checked with the stunts, you know, am I going to be safe here? Do I need to protect my camera in any other way? And they were like, no, we don't think, no, that looks good. It's a bit chaotic sometimes when they're preparing for a stunt, you know, literally it's like suddenly it's gone from calm to chaos and everyone is just desperately making sure everything's safe. And so anyway, left my camera there, went to the monitor, pressed the trigger to keep shooting continuously. And then basically the stunt car went over their mark straight into my camera, and my camera ended up underneath the car. So everyone was in shock about, oh my God, Sophie's camera. What? But luckily I'd put it in a blimp for protection, and miraculously, you know, it survived, but it ended up under the stunt car. So yeah, that sort of thing can happen. Other times I'm trying to think, yeah, where else I've been. I mean, yeah, I can't think of anything. But yeah, there's lots of, yeah. Well, I've been on the edge of the cliff. So yeah, for Eternals, we filmed in the Canary Islands, and we were on these amazing black sand beaches, but the wind, I mean, it was just, we were on the edge of the cliff and we all felt like we were going to be blown off at any point. But, you know, everyone's hanging on to the cameras and the cast hanging on to their costumes. And yeah, that was a bit scary because we were literally on the edge. But yeah, I mean, it's crazy what we do to get those shots. But generally, there's health and safety on set. Let me, you know, reassure everybody, and you know, everyone is safe. So, yeah.
It reminds me of, you know, like sometimes like how we work as well. Although, yeah, it seems like a very safe spot to, you know, put the camera, or you know, safe spot to be in, and then, you know, something happens, like someone hits the camera, like the edge of the frame or the edge of the lens, and you know, a piece goes flying off. It always happens.
Yes, and yeah, exactly. Yeah, and the worst thing is mirrors. You know, sometimes, you know, quite often, I've just done a show recently, and literally every set there was a reflective surface. So sometimes, you know, it's someone will end up in a mirror, and it's you only see that when they do the take. But yeah, it's a challenge. Can be challenging, yes.
And do you end up editing your own photographs? And if so, what's that process like?
Yes. So I do. You know, after a day's work, I could be taking anything from, like, usually sort of between 1,000 and 1,500 pictures a day, which sounds like a lot. Sometimes more.
That's a lot.
That's a
lot.
It is a lot. That's a lot. Yes. And yeah, sometimes I've taken a lot more because when there's action, you know, I'm shooting continuously, or, you know, there's just a lot more going on. So at the end of the day, usually or the next day on set during downtime, I'll then go through those images and make my sort of cut them down. So choose my best one. So I might cut it down to say 400. And then from that batch, I will then grade, say, my top 20 to match the look of the film. So it gives the, you know, the marketing team an idea of what the final look could be. Usually it's marketing who will actually do the final grading, but I always like to present a final look, you know, so that you know, because it looks so much nicer, and you know, and it makes a difference when you're matching what they're doing. So and that's a lovely process. I really enjoy the process of grading and, you know, making the images look like they're ready to go.
Do you get like a production lot or something to match the look to, or do you kind of
that's
go based on?
That's interesting, because on this job that I've just recently done, yeah, there was I was trying to match to the LUT, but the LUT, I mean, it gets a bit technical, but the LUT, they gave me the DIT on set, gave me the LUT for what they were doing, but you can't use them on sort of digital raw files. It's not the same. They don't talk to each other, sort of thing. So I basically, what I ended up doing was using, they normally supply daily screen grabs from the show, and I used those to be able to literally just by eye. I'm just doing it by eye, basically. And sometimes I'll go to the DIT and what they're doing, you know, and just go through it with them and try and match the look. And then once I've got a template, I can use that. You know, I can use that as a base, and then each picture does vary, you know. So yeah, and I will also actually make sure I'm matching their color temperature to start with. So I will just make, you know, it will be different for night, different for day, and so I'll always go and check, see what camera's doing about that. Yeah.
It's very interesting, you know, like hearing you talk about this process, because it helps me formulate like a few ideas in my head on like how to direct the stills photographer for our productions as well.
Yeah.
So do you use Photoshop or Lightroom? And if so, like if you are matching something that you don't necessarily have a LUT for, you know, matching it by eye, do you go based on like do you start adjusting the curves, setting like, you know, matching up the black and white levels, black, white, gray? How does that process go? I mean, you can be technical. It's totally
I have to say I'm not very technical, so I try to be. I mean, but yeah, I do use Lightroom. That's my sort of that's what I use to process everything, and I use the the color. I'll adapt, just make sure I've got the color temperature right. I'll like you said, adjust the contrast. Sometimes I take contrast out, and then I'll do the grading. So they've got a great sort of Lightroom has recently introduced a really great grading tool, so I can look at the highlights, the midtones, and basically adjust everything to quite, you know, in a specific way. And then sometimes if I need to do furthermore sort of detailed editing, I'll go into Photoshop. You know, if I need to crop out a boom, or if I need to get rid of a crew who's just sneaked in behind my shot, then I'll do a bit more work. So yeah, and then when I'm doing gallery shoot, I'll use Capture One, because that is way more efficient with tethering. So yeah,
makes sense. How has the pandemic affected your job?
Well, gosh, yeah, I mean, initially when we were first in lockdown, there was a lot of talk going on about what it's going to look like going back on set, and you know, can we go on set? You know, will stills, you know, still exist? Still photographers still exist? You know, will be allowed? So it was, it varied between productions, because each production has their own COVID protocols. But it did change things. So we couldn't always be on the closed set, or some shows didn't let me go on if it was an indoor set. But so they only booked me for exterior shoots, the exterior days, which obviously limits the material. But that's all they could do. They didn't want to risk it. You know, too many people on set. It's just you know, too much chance of COVID. So that was tough. And then obviously the mask wearing. One show I did, I had to be in full PPE. So I had the gown, I had the mask, I had a visor and gloves. I mean, I looked like a medical student. You know, it was just, and not only that, it was just impossible to do my job. Impossible. you know, so it was quite upsetting actually, you know. It was it really created a barrier, you know, and now it's basically you know, we're using masks on set, off set, you know, anywhere, you know, we have to wear the masks. That's yeah. So, and that's I think that's going to continue for a while.
Yeah, hopefully, you know, we kind of see an end to that. But
yeah,
who knows
yeah,
when?
we all hope that ends soon. We do, but it's too risky to at the moment. You know, if one cast gets COVID or anyone gets COVID on set or tests positive, then it could shut down the production. You know, and it's so
because
yeah.
The reason I wanted to ask about, you know, like how the pandemic has affected your job in a way is like, so when you take behind the scenes photographs, right? Like this is something that I noticed recently from the production that we did. I got the photographs back on set, and you know, you have people wearing masks, and it just takes a whole lot of emotion out of the photo. And I'm like, this is, how do I put this out there? You know, we are following the protocols and all that, but it looks weird. It's like it's a whole different thing.
Yeah, it really does. It does. It takes the life out of the picture, you know. I mean, it's all about the expression, the connection between the director and the cast and the director and the crew. You know, it's, you know, and then you just don't know who's who, you know. You don't necessarily know. So yeah, that's been hard. But I mean, the only thing in, like, you know, in 10 years' time, it might be a novelty to have this picture of everyone wearing masks on set, which, you know, might seem...
I hope that will not be the case.
I mean, you know, it's you just you know, so we're capturing a moment in time, you know. It's a unique moment. This is, you know, who would have thought this is how we would end up, how we would be working, you know. It's very strange. I mean, I hope it changes. Yeah.
Were there any moments on any particular film set where you didn't necessarily shoot stills, but you opted instead for video? I'm assuming this is like a big no, but at any point, like, you know, because if you do shoot on Sony, you're gonna end up with like compressed files, but perhaps an external recorder and like going for like raw video files just to, I don't know, capture something that was like happening continuously. Like you did mention before, you'd like, you know, remotely trigger the camera to roll continuously. Have you ever opted for video, and if so, why?
Well, I haven't actually. I don't. I mean, I have been asked, can I, you know, do both on set? But to be honest, that's a completely different role. It's, you know, it's an it's an EPK role. It's behind the scenes video role, and it's very difficult to do two jobs. So they're two different skills, really. And then if I'm trying to do video, then I'm going to miss something with stills. So I do get asked every now and then, but, you know, I say I don't do that. I just, you know, stills is what I do. And, you know, there's behind the scenes videographers who do that specifically. So it's just so much better to have the two on set, really. So yeah, so I specialize in the stills.
Got you. Yeah, that makes a whole lot of sense. Like you have someone dedicated to one particular task, they're gonna, you know, excel so much better at, you know, performing it, executing it.
Well, in some ways, because we're trying to capture the same thing in some ways, you know. So
yeah,
I mean, they're more behind the scenes, so I'll be capturing more the, you know, the scenes and the cast and action. But, you know, it's very difficult to do both, I think.
Makes sense. Yeah. Any tips for people who are kind of like, you know, wanting to venture out into stills photography on set, stills photography? Any recommendations? Like, I don't know, maybe Words of advice as someone who's been doing this for a decade. What do you have to say?
Well, words of, anyone wanting to get into it, I would say, try and basically build up a portfolio of sort of cinematic images that, look like stills on set, or try and do the cold calling thing for sure, and try and get on set. I did quite a bit of free work when I first started because there were some things that came up and they were just amazing opportunities. I wouldn't say that's necessarily do too much free work at all because it's a skill, but if you need to build up your portfolio, then it's worth doing that, or working with sort of on the lower budget films, which might be able to give you an opportunity. I would say, it's important to sort of understand the set etiquette, because it's not just about being on set. It's not just about taking photos. It is about maneuvering around everybody and being respectful of what's going on. So it's just learning and understanding the set etiquette. But I guess a lot of it is learning on the job too. So I learned on the job really, and developed as I had the experiences, and pick things up all the time. So I would say, definitely go for it. Try and create the opportunities, and don't be afraid. Everyone's lovely on set, usually.
Usually is the key word.
Yes. Yes.
Final question. Will we ever be seeing an exhibition from you?
Oh wow! Oh wow! I would love to do that. That is a great idea. I would love to. I hope so. That would be. I would love to do that. I think it's one of the things is that I'm handing over the copyright of the photos, so the studios own my images. So there would be, for something like that, there would be approvals. But it's that would be something really nice to do.
That would be something that we would love to see at some point.
Oh, thank you. I'll try and make it happen because you've asked.
Well, in that case, let me get the tickets sorted out.
Yes. Yeah.
Sophie, this was amazing. Thank you so much for doing this. People, do go check her site, links down below. And Sophie, again, thanks so much. This was really enlightening into an area of filmmaking that doesn't necessarily get the spotlight. So thanks so much for coming on the show.
It's a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. Really appreciate it. And
no problem.
Thank you.